Darryl has been an active modeler since his childhood. He and his father built a 10-foot by 12-foot HO scale layout in their basement, which actually the layout actually lowered from the ceiling with a system of pulleys and a winch. And that it was probably a clue as to Darryl's future. His career was in aerospace manufacturing, and so retired. He and his wife opened Interaction Hobbies in 2012. He designs the features, the kits, and so on, and his wife is in charge of the e-commerce side of the business and the production. And he will be here with us in Seattle in this September. So Darryl, welcome. We look forward to seeing your presentation this evening.
Great, thank you. Thank you everybody for having us here. So Interaction Hobbies, we're a manufacturer of laser cut kits and 3D printed detail parts as well as some vehicles and ships. We've started the company in 2011, and in the past few years, we've turned it into a full-time occupation out here in Turtle Valley, which is run by my wife and myself. In between that and running a new Christmas tree farm, which we just started. So we should be either rich I should say we should have some money in 8 years to be able to keep running a model railroad business, or we'll have reforested the BC environment up here for trees for the future. Our facility is a 1,200 square foot studio that we have dedicated to our kit building. We use Epilogue lasers and production grade 3D printers. We do some resin casting with pressure pots and vacuum systems. And recently I put in a dedicated table for cutting sheet goods. Instead of buying small batches, we've been buying 250 to 300 sheets of polyback, or what the industry calls laser boards. So it's we're constantly cutting material down to size for the laser as well, which is good because that means our production numbers are up. We have an online secure web site. That's where all of our kits are sold through our system. You'll see the address there on the right-hand side of the screen, www.interactionhobbies.com. We keep everything in stock. If it's not in stock and you order it, it'll trigger a new batch to be ordered. So basically, if it's on our website, it's available. We typically mail twice a week in big batches, and easiest to get a hold of us at any time is through email at sales.interaction.ca. We do have a phone number as well, but that's just an answering service that doesn't get checked every single day. So it's easiest for quick response through the email. One thing I should mention, you can also go to our website and look at all of our kits instruction manuals, which are on the website. We're pretty proud of them. So you can actually download those manuals ahead of time and have a look at what's available and see if it's a kit that you want to do, or what the complexity and what the details are inside the kit. So we've got a wide number of structures that we're growing every day in HO, N scale, O scale now, and we'll be starting S scale as well. So many of these kits you'll see will come out in S scale. This particular one, which is kind of interesting, is Shaky Machine Works. It's a prototype, kind of a Western prototype, but it's the original building was in Westminster, Vancouver, and it was the first company that started making cedar shingle shake manufacturing machines. So it was a one-step machine that actually cut the shingle and then slated the shake into smaller slices. Moonshiner's Cabin. This one actually has an option for a rocking chair animation kit. So the rocking chair will actually rock back and forth, and you can put your own figure in the seat. We have this in HO, it's just coming out in N scale, or O scale as well. Tobacco shop. This is one of our earlier kits. This building still stands as a building in a ghost town in Three Valley Gap in BC. And we include a full interior in this, including stock cabinets with tobacco products. This shed, tool shed, comes out in all three scales of N, HO, and O scale. There's an option in the O scale kit for a detailed interior as you see it. So we use 3D printed parts and a lot of laser cut parts to make up the kit. In fact, the stove has got an opening inside, so you can actually insert an LED from the bottom to have a glowing fire in it. Seabiscuit Boatworks, typical West Coast boat farm. We've seen this turned into everything from a golf clubhouse to a shopping center to a restaurant, and we like to think of it as a boatworks. So we pride ourselves on the details as well. In HO, the Evinrude motor that you see in the back, you can actually see Evinrude 30 printed on the side of the 3D part, as well as the gas cans. So everything comes in the kit that we include here. You'll see everything in the picture, including the boxes and details. We try to stock up as much detail into the kit that we can, provide you with more fun when you're building things. Recent addition is our W.S. Kelly merchandise. This store was based in Cobra, Oklahoma. It's a favorite photo shoot for people. It was also included in the movie Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise. So we had to have that built. You can get different signage for it. So you can have Esso. I think we have Sinclair. We've got city centers. And again, everything here is that you see is in the kit. You can add optional detail kit or not. Same with these details. These details makes it fairly easy to add lighting to these things that you want to add afterwards. So it's easy, build a detail, and then if you don't have the LED or you don't want to, but if you do have an LED, you just slide it up inside to properly light it. These little 3D printed Coke crates. The crates are separate from the bottles, so probably the most tedious part of it is actually inserting the bottles into it, and trying to get the caps off the bottles are pretty difficult as well. Not so much for an aero gauge, but I was a big fan of Sopranos, and so we did the Sotrails meat market store. The first time I've ever done a kit where I have to paint individual sausages and cheeses is quite an entertaining kit to put together. It's lots of detail in there and lots of additional things that you can modify and change and lay out different profiles with the building. So our vehicles, we've got a growing family of highly detailed vehicles. Most of these are done with 3D printed parts and laser board. They're about the same complexity as putting a Jordan together and about the same number of parts. We don't detail the underside as much as a Jordan is, but we're pretty happy with how they come out. This is a 1905 commercial moving van. Many of these were electric powered, so they had 4 motors under each wheel, powered by a bank of batteries in the center. And some of these were actually early hybrids. So they had a gas motor in them that charged the battery bank, which then drove the electric motors on the wheels. So the Prius was not the first hybrid that was out there for sure. So these are the various vehicles we have in HO and O scale. And how they go together, they're laser cut from laser board. Probably the fenders are the most finicky part, but if you follow the instructions and videos that we have on our YouTube page, you can get some pretty good results with them. The one you see in the far lower left is actually an N scale. So the top one is O scale. The one to the lower right is HO, and that's actually an N scale version that we're going to be producing pretty quick as well. So here's just some sequences of how they go together. A lot of layering to get nice detail. That's one of our tricks of the trade, is to add detail through different layers that you add to your kit. Putting together the wheels actually in 3 layers. It seems odd, but it does actually make for a pretty convincing wheel when you glue them together and then sand the edges. It gives you a pretty realistic 3-dimensional representation of a wheel, and much easier to do than in 3D printing. This is just to show again how the kits go together in layering. And we include even things like little condiments and salsa jars at the end of the day for the patrons as well. So 3D printed details and laser cutting. Our 3D printers and most of the new 3D printers are getting to this level of 35 microns as well. We bought this first printer, and our first 3D printed items came out in 2012 with it. It was actually a dental printer, and 35 microns means that these screws that are on the regulator on the left-hand side for this HO scale gas meter, you can actually see the screw heads and the slot in the screw head if you look at it under a magnifying glass or microscope. So that's the kind of detail you can get from some of these new 3D printers. So various details in all scales. Did a cigarette machine recently in three scales: HO, S scale, and O scale. You can also go to our YouTube page, which I'll list at the end if you just search for Action Hobbies, and we do a series now called The Art of Detail, and that is actually a weekly or bi-weekly episode that we put together for the Nutrax modeling show. Web show, and we release it there, and it shows you how to put together a lot of art details, and it also gives you a lot of techniques of how to build things and give you some ideas for your own scratch building techniques as well. So we have an industrial duct extractor. We've got lots of interior detail parts and shop detail parts as well. So the hoarder shipment, that was fun. Might as well take advantage of COVID while we can. This little kit, you actually get a bunch of crates for your hoarding business. You get your craft dinner, N95 masks, hand sanitizer, toilet paper, and if that doesn't get rid of the plague, then the Ark of the Covenant, you can release it and destroy the plague from everybody. So fun little detail to put together. These are cinder blocks. They're kind of a different way to do them, but it's rather economical to put a bunch of them together. So we laser cut them out of 332nd basswood. You just break them apart, clean them up, and then I find the easiest way to paint them is to just throw them into a bowl and paint them with some acrylic paint, and then spread them out on a paper towel and keep spreading them out until they dry and rotating them, and it makes a pretty convincing little block. So I think you get about 120 of them in a package. Boats and aviation, we're spreading our wings in that area quite a bit, more so in the boat section. The Gene boat that you see here is actually made famous, well, not famous, but it was used by the Dolly Vartan mine on the Pacific region. As a crew boat back and forth, so we made that replica. It's in HO and it'll be coming out this summer in O scale. Some various rowboats and some other kits as well. Which leads us to the CR Lamb, which is one of my favorite kits and things that we've done in HO, N scale, and O scale. It was a stern wheeler which plied the Pacific Northwest here up in the Thompson River region. It ran from Kamloops all the way down to Mare Lake and through the Shuswap Lake. And it was actually slated for the Arrow Lakes company to be built, but they didn't need it. So that was then built in the Shuswap in Kamloops. And it's typical of most Pacific Northwest paddle steamers of about the mid-size. So it can fit anywhere on quite a few different layouts. The kit in O scale is pretty, all three scales are pretty detailed, but the O scale kit, we went over the top with it. The detail is such that it's, I think there's some 1,700 parts in the kit, which shouldn't daunt you. There's a 120-page manual to go with it as well. And we've had quite a few people send us their builds of what they've done. They've done a pretty good job with it. The paddle wheel itself, you see there, I think there's 300 nut bolt washer castings that are pre-laser cut and pre-set up, so you can just set them in place in the paddle wheel itself. The cable system. Davits. The engine, I should say the boiler system is a resin casting that we include along with some 3D printed details to go with its sight glasses and various gauges on it. You can actually light the boiler with an LED if you like, to have a glowing LED inside of it. Typically along the side, we didn't put it in our kit, but you would have this whole area of these doors that lift up would be full of firewood from packed from the floor to the ceiling in the boat, because it would typically run, I think, about a cord, half a cord to a cord per hour, depending on what they were pulling for log jams and whatnot. So that's a lot of wood when you consider how much wood these things used to burn. 3D printed engines. I think there's about 6 parts that go together in each engine. The hardest part on 3D parts is to actually clip all the little supports off, but we've tried to make that pretty simple for people to put together. And then just to show how the boats are very similar to putting a structures kit together, this is a plank on frame boat, which some people think as soon as they hear those words that it's quite intimidating. But in reality, it goes together much like any structure does. And you build the frame with the longerons and bulkheads, and simply throw on some siding as messily as you can. And I tell people that because at the end of the day, these boats were half rotting all the time. They were constantly being repaired with new wood put in them every year. So I find if you're not a really neat and tidy planker and worried about gaps and things, I just threw the planks on, filled them with a little bit of Bondo, and then once they're painted, you get kind of a very nice weathered effect at the end of the day. And then the rest of the ship goes together much like a structure would. So you put each level together like a layer cake. We supply the LEDs, lighting kit inside and interior decorations, and assemble it. And we even try to do with our windows, we try to put them in from the outside. So it's the last thing that you do is add the glazing, so you don't have the inside of your structure full of dust and which is usually what happens when you put your glazing on last or first. You wind up with a bunch of dust on the glass and whatnot. So the glazing goes in from the outside, then you set a window frame in on top of that. So what's next? I'm not as far as hoping to be a little further along with this kit. This kit will be coming out in the next month or two of Giordano's Grocers and Cold Storage. So it's a multi-sided transfer building. One side, this side is used for the trucks that we'll be picking up. There's a office that'll be able to locate in various locations on the building depending on your needs. And actually the annex itself is made from corrugated material, or you can do it in stucco. So the corrugated material, we actually supply a corrugator that you take the aluminum foil tape that we supply, cut it into strips, and then use the corrugator to make your own corrugated aluminum or corrugated metal siding. So that's kind of it. I wanted to keep this kind of short for you guys. I know you got lots of other things on the site. I encourage you to go to our website or our Facebook page to check things out from us. And as Russ said, we'll definitely be at Tacoma in 2022 here. So looking forward to seeing you guys this fall as well in person.
Thank you, Darryl. This is Pete Smith. I'll handle the Q&A. I don't see any questions in the chat room, but that was a wonderful presentation. Your kits are absolutely outstanding. I do have a question. What are you going to be producing in S scale? The vehicles, perhaps?
And we'll probably do the vehicles for sure. We're definitely going to do Heater's Garage, and we're going to be doing our 1950s gas station, which I didn't show here, but if you can see it on our website, it's a very popular kit. And then probably the tool shed, and then we'll be coming out with some newer buildings as well. And
that's good.
We're not sure what size we should go up to. It's kind of like the O scale ones, you know. I'm worried that some of our bigger HO scale kits, will they really want them in O scale or not? So if you have any questions or suggestions, please just drop us a line. The more suggestions we get, especially with the S scale, that kind of encourages us to kick them into gear.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. I got a comment from Rob Bell. Love your camper kits. Gerald Harper, is the corrugation available in all scales?
It's currently in HO and O scale. So S scale is easy to do. It's basically, we laser cut the laser engrave the corrugator. So it's very easy to scale to different scales.
Okay. There's a question from Bob Parrish. Is there a replacement vehicle for your old Jordan T truck hardware wagon?
I think members, we originally did a conversion for Jordan, for the Jordan. I'm not sure which one he's got, but if he's thinking of, where are we here? Sorry, yeah. The red one, we did do a conversion for a Jordan at one point, so that's actually done as a kit now. I'm not quite sure what he was asking.
Okay, I wasn't either.
Before we did our full kits, we actually did conversion kits for the Jordans because we thought we'd come up with a bunch of body styles, and we have about 3 or 4 different conversion kits as well. And then of course Jordan stopped producing. So.
Okay. Okay, Terry Wheeler asked if are there any plans for 30s era vehicles?
I noticed Sylvan's starting to move into the 30s. So the complex fenders, we're kind of staying away from at the present time. We might do maybe an unusual vehicle. I don't know if we go to the Ford Model A's or something, but if we could find a different brand that's not out there, we take a run at it. 3D printing them in O scale gets to be fairly big because your palette on the printer is taking up one full kit. So it would make for a fairly expensive kit at the end of the day.
Okay, and finally, I tend to be wary of era-specific details. It would be great if the kits would address this with information. Okay, thank you very much. Once again, it was an excellent presentation, Darryl.
Thank you, Darryl. Excellent presentation.